Hey, so today we're talking about one of my favorite origins. It's washed Ethiopia, and I've got 13 samples here. This is going to be kind of just a recap. It's more fun. It's not really, it's very subjective. It's not very scientific. But these are all 2025 arrivals. I'm filming this in April of 2026. So the new stuff really hasn't quite arrived in the United States. So I thought I'd just do like a recap of kind of what my thoughts were of the 2025 arrivals. And I just gathered all my stuff. I did 50-gram sample roasts of everything so I could taste them, all of them side by side. I roasted them, I think it was March 21st. And then I tasted them side by side, blind cupping 1 week later, 2 weeks later, and 3 weeks later. And so right now we're at 3 weeks post roast, and I just did my final third round of cupping. And what I did is I just on every time I would do it, I would kind of put them into a tier of my A group, my B group, and my C group. And so what you'll see on these little post-its, it'll say like the first time I cupped it, I gave it A tier, A tier, and the second time A tier, the third time A tier. On something like this, it was B, C, B, and then on these that I've now grouped, like this one was consistently C group, C group, C group. So let's talk about my favorites. We'll start there. Um, I only had two where all three times I cupped it, I always put it in the top group. One is the Sweet Maria's Ethiopia Uraga Rarabota. It's a September arrival of 25. And this one, the Ethiopia Uraga Siko, also a September arrival. And so I guess Uraga was really good this year for me. This one was an A, a B, and an A. And this is Ethiopia Kion Mountain. I don't know how to pronounce that. Teru. And then kind of in between A and B group, I pushed them into A, I guess, is the from Showroom, the Leo Taraga washed grade 1 FTO. And then this one from Sweet Maria's was a B plus, and an A, and it's the Ethiopia Gerba Hichara. So those are my favorites. My B group, and basically, let me go back a little bit and say what's the difference for me. For me, the A group, you're going to have all the baseline attributes of Ethiopia. So it's clean, it's bright, it's juicy, but it's going to have those really more obvious expressive notes of, typically for me, it's bergamot, orange, jasmine florals, and probably something like a peach, for the fruit. For the B group, typically what I'm getting is, again, you get the baseline attributes of clean, sweet, juicy, nice acidity, clean finish, maybe a little bit of lemon, and the other attributes, the florals, they're just a little more faded. It's not quite as obvious, but it's still a pretty nice coffee. And so I could see some people saying, I don't really like the super expressive Ethiopia. You may not like this as much. You might actually like this, where it's a little more neutral, but it's very obviously different than the Central or South America. It's clean, bright, juicy, just not as obvious. And then the C group, it was something about it was just like it was either earthy or a little too tea-like, too nutty, a little bit of like a hemp or a hoppy type flavor. All right, so that was kind of the way I divvied them up. So that was my group. My B group was this Konga Yirgacheffe, Limu, the organic Guerra Nanochala, and this one's the one I bought the most of, just based on past practice and or past experience. And this is the Yirgacheffe Bangkok Otidi. This one, I did a standalone video on this, and this one, if you buy stuff based on past experience, you may or may not work out the next crop. So that's just how it goes. Yeah, and then again, my C group. These were some early arrivals. That's the other thing I noticed is I had heard that you might want, unless you really need the coffee, you may want to wait for like the later arrival crops versus the early arrival, and that did sort of play out a bit. So on these, it was just like CBC, CCB, muted, not as expressive is what I mean there, not as obvious. Earthy, hemp, muted. So this one was this Theta Ridge, and it's just called Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. So there's no real other information. But I could see some of these being good in maybe like a blend, where you're blending it with some Central to South America, and you want just like a little bit of a pep to it, a little bit more of a zing to it, but it's not super obviously Ethiopia, and maybe you don't want that. So maybe you just want something that blends in a little bit more seamlessly. You might want to go with one of the C tiers. And then just as an example for the actual roast level, what I'm doing is for all these samples, I roasted them all the same day, same profile, and I'm taking them more or less, plus or minus 5 seconds, 2/3 of the way through first crack. All right, so on my roaster, I'm using an Ikawa air roaster, small batch sample roaster. My first crack only lasts with 50 grams about 60 seconds. So I'm taking this about 40 seconds, or about 2/3 of the way through first crack. I found that to be kind of a sweet spot for not getting into roasty notes, not diminishing your origin character, and not getting underdeveloped notes. So this was the Seco Uraga as an example. This is what that one looked like. It was an 11.3% weight loss, which is very typical. So he's like, well, what did most of these samples look like? Most of these samples, all of these, almost all of them looked like this. This was a very representative look to the beans. This ended up being the Theta Ridge, the Yirgacheffe. You can kind of see this was my C group. As an example, it does look actually different. It looks a little more even variation in screen sizes. Some broken beans in there. Maybe also I see drying is a little bit uneven on the drying. So I'm talking about drying at origin, the drying stage. And then this one also looked a little bit unusual. This was the Limu grade 2. This one was a kind of an interesting one. This is one that I actually reordered a little bit more of, because I just couldn't quite get my head around it. It was a very distinctive, interesting profile, kind of like a lime citrus, even some tropical notes, which means maybe they did something with the fermentation on this. I kind of wanted to explore it some more, sometimes some floral. All right, so that's kind of my my overall summary. I would say a couple more things is this year I did not really get any of the. In past years, I've sometimes gotten this weird oniony body odor, BO type aroma, or maybe even flavor. Did not get that this year. So I don't know. I've heard that that's a fermentation issue, or it can be. Not really sure. It could be a climate change. Who knows? And then basically that's it. The early arrival, late arrival thing I wanted to mention. That was pretty much it. So what I'm hearing about the 2026 arrivals is that we're going to have even more and more of a shift towards natural processed coffees. So, I like naturals as well. I kind of wish there was more options with the washed, of course. And then prices, of course, are going to go up. I just That's the most consistent thing I'm hearing is that prices are going to go up and up. And then basically there's higher yields in Western Ethiopia, which tends to be the more commercial commodity crops, and then the Yirgacheffe, the Sidama, the Guji is maybe a little bit down this year. So yeah, again, maybe higher prices, maybe less choice. But I would say I enjoyed the 2025 arrivals. Looking forward to 2026. And again, this is just for fun. This is very subjective. It's also kind of fun to trade notes with other roasters. What did you think? So if you have any thoughts on these, let me know in the comments. All right, thanks. Bye.